Ray Hoppins from Hoppins People Services, that we will be able to send out the recording. The recording will be sent out hopefully by the end of today, along with a great handout that Ray is gifting all of us. So keep your eyes on your emails this afternoon for some more emails. And as I continually say, please, if you are in the room, if you could please mute your microphone just to be respectful of our speaker and minimize our background noise. We have a lot of people attending today. I cannot believe it. This is a hot topic. I wonder if it's just happening after Christmas, Ray, because we have lots of tough conversations around the crazy season, and we have over 120 people signed up to talk about having difficult conversations. So
Wonderful.
And I know that the audience will not be disappointed because I've had a little preview of Ray's presentation. So with that said, we are at 11:02. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle McFadden Loomis. I am the Business Development Advisor with the Regional Business Support Network and your host of our monthly BizBite episodes. So the Regional Business Support Network is brought to you at no cost. We are grant funded by Prairies Economic Development Canada, the Town of Olds, and Community Futures Central Alberta. So I am so excited to be here. And if you have missed any of our episodes over the last year, and I think we have about 14 of them, if you're able to mute, if you're coming in, that would be wonderful. Thank you. There we go. There we go. I'm hoping. There we go. That worked. So with that said, I met Ray a few months ago, and he was actually one of the Regional Business Support Network clients coming in and starting his business. And so in talking to him about what Ray did, I said, I have to have you present on what you do because he's quite phenomenal. So let me introduce you to our presenter today, Ray Hoppins, and share a little bit about this man before he shares a little bit more about having difficult conversations. So with that said, Ray joins our BizBite to share a snapshot of how he helps teams, leaders, business owners, and staff navigate those tricky, sensitive, but crucial and difficult conversations. Ray is a corporate trainer, speaker, and HR consultant who draws energy from helping organizations adopt people-centered approaches. Prior to founding Hoppins People Services in 2024, Ray was blessed with a fulfilling and thrilling 33-year career as an educator, associate superintendent, and chief human resources officer for a large Alberta school division with over 2,000 hardworking people. He was raised on a 121-year-old farm in central Alberta and lives with his wife, Sandy, and they have 4 adult children who finances and all of those hard conversations that we have to have with our adult children. So Ray takes pride in facilitating programs that are practical, proven, and powerful. Great alliteration there. And they span more than 24 timely topics such as communication, leadership, trust, teams, culture, and change. So we will be sharing Ray's contact information should you wish to reach out to him directly to inquire about his services in the email that we send out with the recording, plus the bonus handout that is coming with the recording. And if you want the handout faster, you just scan the QR code on the screen. It's just that easy. So with that said, I am going to ask everyone to mute your microphones. This will be an engaging question and answer period at the end. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Ray will be asking questions as well that he'll want you to answer in the chat as well. So if you can find your chat button, it's the little bubble icon to engage with Ray during the presentation. That would be great. So with that said, I think everybody's muted in the room. Ray, I'll let you take the microphone and run with it.
Well, thank you, Michelle, and good morning, everyone. When Michelle invited me to the BizBite, she said I had 30 minutes to share, and I asked for 90, so we negotiated on something we could both agree with. So I have 30 minutes. There wasn't much budging on that, which I appreciate. I am honored to be here to share with you today. And before I ramble on, there is a QR code. I'll keep it on one more slide, just so that you can see it. And it's just a little bit of a handout that provides some of the content that we're talking about here today. And on a personal note, thank you to you, Michelle, for everything that you do to support us as business owners and leaders and people in our region. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. So a great friend and colleague of mine had a really good question he used to ask. He would say, what problem are we trying to solve? And so here's what I think it is. For today's topic on difficult conversations, I think that many of us either avoid these situations and conversations, or we have them and we wish that they would have gone smoother. And we start thinking about them. Back in the 20th century, they gave school leadership jobs to just about everybody or anybody. Now, I'm not knocking the system because I was a benefactor, and I was so excited when I became principal of Sundre High School. I have many fond memories of working with students and staff in the community. And what I did learn very quickly is I was not ready for difficult conversations. So I began to steal and borrow ideas from really good people. And so I'm just hoping to pass some of those along to you today. So an author named David Weinberger once said, the smartest person in the room is the room. And I believe that to be true. So I'm hoping to tap into the room, all of you in this virtual room today. And if you don't mind, if you're able, willing, and not driving, if you can get your typing fingers ready, I'm interested on your perspectives. So when you think about these difficult conversations, what is one common reason why we hesitate in the beginning? Why do we avoid them? Why do we fail to launch these conversations? So if you can share your thoughts, I'll kind of watch the chat and maybe pick out some comments or pick out some themes, and I can see them coming in already. And it's very timely. So I see an initial theme coming up, which is fear. Fear of conflict. Maybe fear of repeating something that happened another time. We had the conversation, it didn't go well, and we're worried about that. I also see maybe a little bit of lack of will or lack of skill. We need to learn how to develop our own skill set. I'm seeing a theme of, I guess, uncertainty. And people do matter, and we like to have positive relationships, and we want to address issues, but we also want to take care of others, and that is real. This is an outstanding list, and it's timely and accurate, and I've made mistakes on all of these things. And so that's our launch pad into what happens if we succumb to these emotions we have, and we do avoid them, and we don't have the difficult conversation. Well, there are significant costs to the delay or the avoidance. You didn't log on today for me to read you a long list, so I'm just going to pick two of them. I'm going to start at the top. Loss of sleep is the number one thing for me personally. When we are losing sleep, or people we work with are losing sleep, we ought to do something. I think we have an obligation to do something. Then the second thing I'm going to draw to your attention is that notion of what I call the bubble. Susan Scott has a great book, and you'll see it on the screen there. She presented this notion of a bubble. So I want you to imagine an issue or a difficult situation. At the beginning, there's not a lot of air or drama or emotion in it, but if we leave it, it grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And that pop makes it very, very difficult, and none of us like it. And so when I use the analogy, piercing the bubble, we're going to try and get to things early so that it doesn't grow and we worry less. So the plan for today is pretty simple. I have a couple scenarios. I have the 10 steps, and then we're going to build some time in to hear from you via the chat, but also for some Q&A later on. I asked Michelle if we could just joke around today. I could tell some jokes. She said, no, you have to have some outcomes. They're expecting outcomes. So I do have a few things, but to boil it down, I'm hoping that you can just take one practical idea away, something you can actually use the next day or Monday morning. To extend that, at the end of the time, I'll put you on the spot, typing fingers again. And if you're comfortable and you can share that one thing, it's always great to see what we're leaving this time and space by the end of the day. A few norms and caveats. And once again, I won't read all of them. I just want to mention two. We're really soft on people. So we want to respect when we're talking to people. I don't know anyone that gets up in the morning and goes, I'm going to ruin Ray's day today. Things just happen. So we're going to be soft on people. And the second thing is, I'm not an expert, and I'm not here to tell you exactly how to cook. I'm sharing some ingredients that I like, that have worked for me, but I also recognize the wisdom in the room, and you have to find out exactly how that comes about. And you've got to build that for moving forward. One last caveat, if I may. Before all the strategies and steps and all the stuff I'm blabbering about today, trust is foundational. We have to establish trust. If we don't have trust, it makes it 10 to 20 times harder. It really does. So a quick story. When they built the Hoover Dam almost 100 years ago, it was too complicated for one company. So they brought 5 companies to come together. They didn't agree on everything, but they agreed on one thing, the chief engineer. They hired Frank Crowe. Frank Crowe was considered a people genius. He was a great engineer, but he was even better at connecting with people. He had a phrase, never a belly to my desk. And he would go out with the people that were building the Hoover Dam, and he connected with them. He was straightforward, he was clear, and he was kind. But he had the trust, and that was his most important gift to the building of that dam. So I read faces for a living, and I can read yours. And you're like, get to the 10 steps, get to the scenarios. So here we go. So this is Norm. I want you to, not his real name, but most of you have probably had a situation like this. And if you're like me, you may have even been Norm. I think I've been Norm a couple times. Norm works with you. Maybe he works for you. But Norm is late more often than you'd like. And your first couple hints at it, he just kind of gave you the thumbs up and the fingers and smiled and said, I'm glad you have my back. But you're a bit frustrated. And now you go, I got to do something. So before we jump into solutions, I'm interested in your typing fingers again, if I may. Before we talk about solutions, and we got to talk to Norm about being late at work, I'd like you to tell me one common mistake that we usually make in situations like this. So how do we make it worse? If your goal was to make it worse, what's the common way to have this one go south on us? If you can go ahead. I see right out of the gate, letting it go, letting the bubble blow, and then getting frustrated, not addressing it. Yeah, making jokes about it. And by the way, we probably tried that with Norm, and it wasn't working. I love the making assumptions. Thank you, Kim. Making assumptions will often lead to just more misconceptions, and it doesn't help the difficult conversation. You're putting in the chat right now a roadmap to making it worse. And so it really is appreciative of the wisdom in the room. I see emotions like anger and frustration that leaks out of us, right? When we're having the difficult conversations. So I took a guess at some of the things that you might bring up, and boy, is it aligned. And they're the things that you see now are the things that I've made mistakes on and had to learn the hard way. 3 that I want to draw your attention to, and they align perfectly what you're putting in the chat. First of all is what I call the group scolding. It's never worked for me. The group email to everybody about being on time and the email to everybody only makes matters worse. Everybody goes, you should just talk to Norm. We know that he's the one that's late. And the second thing is Norm thinks, oh, good, everybody has the problem. And so it doesn't work. But I can think of something worse than that. And that's to change the whole organization, change all the policies, the procedures, the rules, just because we want Norm to change. That usually is a waste of time. And I've done that one too. And finally, taken away Norm's dignity. So we just have to keep that in mind. And that's our launching point to what we're going to talk about next. As I go through all the ingredients and all the strategies, I'd encourage you to just pick ones that align with your authentic self. These 10 steps aren't like building Lego or creating the Hoover Dam. They're more art and science, and they come back to how we are as people. So number 1, everyone matters. Near the beginning of my career, I was coaching senior high volleyball, going to a tournament, and whoops, I forgot some paperwork. That's pretty important for field trips. But my principal didn't give me the scolding. He had my back, he helped me, and even fixed it for me. And he just was clear and made sure he helped me make sure it didn't happen again. That was a very good lesson for me. He treated me like I was his kid. So as you go about these, as you're thinking about Norm, talking to him, or Ray, you could ask yourself, how would a loved one of mine want to be treated? What if it was your child or your spouse or your parent? And that's a really good roadmap for all of us. So we also should decide if it's necessary. So if there's sleep loss or you'd want to know, by all means, have the conversation, move forward. But I like the frequency, intensity, time measure. You know, is it a big deal? Do I have to have the conversation? Let's imagine we all work for an organization and one of you tells me that 2 months ago, you were mentioning me and this and our biz bite, and Michelle rolled her eyes. I'm probably not biting on the conversation. Frequency, it's only happened once. Time, several months ago. And intensity. Boy, if I followed every eye roll, I'd spend a lot of time chasing that. So you have to decide if it's necessary. And that's really important as we move forward. Number 3. This maybe is my favorite. You know, we're not supposed to have favorites, Michelle, but this is one of my favorites. Probably because I've done a lot of it. But essentially, it's so easy to tell stories. So I want to give you an example from our little pretend organization that I just said we all work for. Let's say that we have parking spots. And 4 or 5 times a month, I look out and in my parking spot, whoa, there's a red hatchback. So I'm starting to get frustrated. And then I find out that Michelle has a red hatchback. So what starts out as just a parking issue, I start telling myself a story. Like my human gene kicks in, you know. I bet you Michelle gets up every morning and goes, I'm going to ruin Ray's day. And she parks in my spot. And then I go even further. Well, if Michelle's stealing my parking spot, what other things does she do? And I start to tell myself a story. about Michelle. And so that storytelling is so easy to do. And the reason we're talking about difficult conversations today, it's easier just to move forward and have the discussion. Confidential advice is always a good idea. And the one avoid category I just share with you is I'd suggest you avoid telling other people you're going to have the conversation. If I tell 5 of you, I'm talking to Michelle about parking, like this is going to happen. I'm going to, this week, maybe next week, one of the days in the next 15 days, I'm going to talk to Michelle about parking. It leaks out. And I really owe her some confidentiality. I can always ask advice from a trusted leader, and that's really important. All right, let's get our fingers ready again. I'm going to play a guessing game. We all like guessing games when it's fun and the stakes are low. So according to Albert Mehrabian, in emotional, tricky, sensitive situations, what percentage of our meaning comes from our words versus tone and body language? Go ahead. You're given 2 numbers. Like if you think it's half and half, you're going 50-50. If you think it's a little more words, that's a higher number. Okay, so the numbers are coming in. They add to 100. That's great. Everybody, we passed our math test. Awesome. So most of you recognize that probably more comes from our tone and our body, how close we are. I need to talk to you. And all of that we can control. So those are really good guesses. Thanks for playing along. Lindsay, you're really close. Believe it or not, it's actually 793. 7% from our words, 93% from everything else, body and tone. So that's something worth considering when we're having these conversations. So the next step is we have to plan the conversation. Believe it or not, I have witnessed and been a part of many conversations that were so simple to have, as simple as parking or getting to work on time. And they've gone south because the conversations weren't planned. So just one example. If I'm going to talk to Michelle about parking, and all of a sudden I see her in the hallway and I say, Michelle, I want to talk to you about something really important next Tuesday, but I can't tell you what it is. It's not going to go very well. First of all, it's not fair to Michelle. Why would I have her wait a week to decide what we're going to talk about? So planning where, when, and that opening sentence is so very, very important. So let's go back to that 7% words, 30% tone and body language again. The first 30 seconds are really important to help the person find safety and feel comfortable. We are in the people business. Regardless of what we do, we're in the people business. So it's those first 30 seconds that we can help them feel safe. If they're feeling unsafe, we bring them back to safety by parking the root of the issue until we can assure them that we're there to help. Breathing, pausing, always a good responsibility for us as leaders. So number 7 and 8 are sibling steps. They go together. It's the straight combining of the difficult conversation world for those of you that aren't. So they go together because it's rather simple. Let's go back to the Michelle example. I'm ready now. I've set it up. I'm going to talk to Michelle about parking. By describing what it is I'm grinding my teeth over and then getting her perception, we're probably going to figure it out. So let's play it out. Michelle, are you game? Can I put you on the spot?
I'm totally ready, Ray.
Okay. So Michelle, I we're sitting down. You go to me like, what's up? And I go, Michelle, I apologize. I've left this too long, but I just wanted to check in with you on something. So we have parking spots. I noticed a red hatchback in the spot that I'm assigned to, and it's happened 4 or 5 times in a month. And I just wanted your perceptions on it. Were you aware there were parking spots? What's going on? I just thought I'd check in with you.
Well, Ray, that's my red hatchback. And oh my gosh, I had no idea I was parking in your spot. I know when I started like a couple of months ago, I didn't even know there were assigned parking spots. I'm so sorry. Totally unaware.
You know, it's funny. I'm in charge of onboarding. I don't even think we tell people. I think we've kind of left it to chance, word of mouth. I apologize. Oh, we're gonna fix that. We'll get you, and we're gonna get you a parking spot. By the way, one just opened up better than that one.
Yay,
Done.
I get my own parking spot. I feel so special now.
That's great. When I role play that little scenario, I'll often have people from organizations say, it's sometimes not that simple. And they're right. It sometimes isn't, but it sometimes is. It's just, did we communicate what's going on? But the reason I like doing these together is once you describe, you'll notice I stop talking. I just want to hear the other person's perspective. I could be totally wrong and might be missing something. Let's go to 9.
But I was really thinking at 6 a.m. in the morning, how am I going to ruin Ray's day today?
Yeah, fair enough. So if you like to learn about this sort of thing and you want to dig deeper, there's a great book, Crucial Conversations. It really helped me move towards resolution and action. And once you pierce that bubble and you know what you're talking about and the other person feels safe, you can plan together. Let's fix it. Nothing's too important that we can't fix it and work together. So let's go back to Norm. We now see a solution. Go talk to Norm. Sit down, say, I want to address being late, and let's you and I come up with a solution. It could be a variety of reasons. I really like finding out if everything's okay in Norm's life. Something could be going on. And by asking Norm's perceptions on that, he might tell you. By the way, it might be a structural thing that we're doing to Norm. Hey, Norm, what's going on with the late arrival times? And he might go, I'm on until midnight answering calls from our own organization. And it might be something I'm unaware. All right. Finally, I've learned and stolen a lot of great ideas from people about closing the loop. In more than 30 years of having these conversations, not one person has ever said they didn't want to check back a week later and just check in to make sure if we're doing okay. Check on them. I also had a colleague that had a really good question. He would ask, have I treated you fairly today? So I stole that as well. It's a very powerful question to ask. And I've gotten some really good answers. And sometimes I had to change my behavior, or I had to do something different in my own practice. So I share that question with you. Steal away. The other thing, I really like to agree on a couple things before we leave. Michelle, I'm kind of embarrassed about the parking thing. So can we agree we're not going to go and tell 100 people? I wanted to just solve it, you and me, and I'm glad we've solved it and move forward. Sometimes those agreements can be very powerful and they help protect the other person. As I said, we're in the people business. By the way, if you do want to make things worse, here's some surefire ways. I'm sorry that we have technology and that we still try and use them to solve problems. I just don't think it works. The email, the text, they lose the meaning, and that's why we have this called difficult conversations. I've never been a fan of the group meeting. Hey, Michelle, 7 of us want to talk to you about parking. It's not usually the way that we like to be treated. I also don't like shifting blame. Hey, Michelle, I'm fine with parking, but a bunch of other people are concerned about your parking. Why? Michelle goes, well, who are they? Like, who's been talking about me? So if I'm concerned about the parking and I'm talking to Michelle, I'm going straight there. So a couple bonus points. Michelle said, make sure you have bonus points. So AI is awesome, but it's also a little awkward at times. So I want to exercise some caution with AI. I just, for fun, put my own topic in AI and just saw what it said. There's a couple things that it said that haven't worked for me, like sandwich feedback. Let me show you what sandwich feedback looks like and why it doesn't work for me. Michelle, you are unbelievable and integral to our organization. You're bad at parking and you need to correct it, but I love what you do with social media. When I leave that conversation, Michelle isn't sure what the purpose was, and it comes across, for me, a little less than authentic. The other thing that AI said was spend 2 or 3 minutes framing it before you get to the issue. I didn't like that. And that sounds like this. Michelle, over the next 45 minutes, we're going to talk a lot of things. I'm going to review some policies, yada, yada, yada. That whole 3 minutes, I think Michelle is wanting me to get to the point. So AI is awesome, but you got to make it your own and you have to feel comfortable with it. One other thing, sometimes people don't feel safe and they'll throw out what I might consider a ridiculous thing. Michelle might say, well, you don't care about anybody. Instead of engaging in that, I'll sometimes use the word perhaps. Perhaps, but let's solve this so that I don't start to dive in something that isn't going to lead us towards a solution. So come up with your own admission that you're probably not perfect and you got stuff to learn, but now let's fix it. So I'm going to give you some homework. This is the homework scenario. Okay, it's the posting. So in this scenario, it gets a little more serious. And by the way, we got lots of scenarios and they get more and more serious. This is Loretta. And you see a post where Loretta, one of your own teammates, is complaining about the organization and about you. And she names you. And it's probably not good for anybody. And you have to deal with it. And so in this scenario, your homework is, I want you to imagine what's your opening line. You're convinced that you're going to go and you're going to have a discussion with Loretta. And if anyone's brave, by the way, and you already know what your opening line as you sit down to talk to her would be, go ahead and enter it in the chat. But sometimes we need thinking. What would I say, Loretta? You sit down, you've got a quiet, confidential space, and she goes, what's up? How are you going to start that conversation? And it's that opening line that we sometimes struggle with. So there's your homework to think about and to dive into. How do you create safety? And how do you move forward to have that conversation? So I'm interested. And this is something I'd love to hear from all of you on. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about having the difficult conversation and the parameters around it. So as you leave our BizBite today, I'm interested in the one takeaway. The one thing that you're leaving with here today, it could be a lesson learned, something that I stole that now you're going to steal. It could be a still question that you have. And if you are comfortable and willing, and if you can share that in the chat, I think it helps all of us to see what's on everyone's mind.
So we've got some good ones coming in, Ray.
Yeah, very good. I see a lot of making sure the other person has dignity.
Yeah, don't sugarcoat it. I'm imagining talking to one of my kids is a good idea. Lead with empathy, leading the conversation through honest engagement. Ask for their perspective. So much good stuff that people are walking away with today, Ray.
Yeah, that's really good. I want to just draw on a couple themes that I see here, Michelle, if we just have a few minutes.
Absolutely. Let's run with it, Ray. This is great stuff.
And that's perspective. The difficult conversations are so much about perspective. And when I see all of these, I'm thinking of all the times I drove my own kids home from hockey practice. I was their dad and their coach. And we would drive home and I'd say, "Oh, we're doing pretty good. We just got to make sure we get the puck out of the zone quickly." And we'd get home and my wife would say to the kids, "Oh, how was hockey?" And they'd say, "Well, it was good until dad yelled at us all the way home." My perspective was I was just making one quick point. Their perspective was I was bawling them out because they weren't doing what I wanted them to do. So they're not wrong and I'm not wrong. And the beauty and the joy of finding that middle ground and moving forward so we don't lose sleep is pretty important. By the way, kudos to you. Your list exceeds what I had in the presentation. So I hope there's a way to capture those, Michelle, because you just got a whole bunch of bonus points that resonated with people that we can move forward on.
We sure did. We got lots of bonus points, and you're giving us another one, Ray.
Well, I'm just I think hopefully we have some time for some questions. I'm happy to stay on.
Absolutely.
Let's stay. I just, you had encouraged me to put the contact information on. It's there. If this sort of thing interests you and you enjoy it, there are ways that we can help. And we, a colleague and myself, we're offering a course. It is in Edmonton and Calgary, and you see there, and there are a couple QR codes. So I'll stop talking. I've done too much talking already, and maybe some people are nodding off. So I'll turn the microphone back over to you, Michelle, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I was unable to catch all the questions in there, but if there are questions, I'm happy to take a shot at them as long as we're being soft on people and keeping their confidentiality.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ray. Well, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our amazing presenter. You know, if you're still muted, you can lift your hands, put your video on. We got lots of claps and applause all the way around, Ray. That was fantastic. And this is why we do Biz Bites. They're quick, they're to the point. We're getting out valuable information to business owners through the Regional Business Support Network. And so let's stay a little while. Let's break my rule about Biz Bites and let's stay a little while and maybe we can do a little Q&A. So I am going to ask you, because we have so many people in the room, to put your question into the meeting chat, and then I'll ask Ray and he can respond. That way we don't have 50 people unmuting and talking at the same time. So Ray, we have the first question from Jesse. What would you use as an opening sentence for the last homework question?
That's a very good question. So honestly, when Loretta would turn to me and say, "What's up?" I would just go right to what I'm there to talk to Loretta about. And I would say, "Loretta, I saw the post and I'm sorry there's frustration there. I'm here to help. I'm hoping to get two things, Loretta. First of all, I'm hoping to bring the post down because I'm worried for you, for me, for all of us. But more importantly, let's figure it out. I'm going to stop talking and I want your perceptions and I'm here to help. And I do think we can work it out." So that's my honest take on it. And I think we would work it out. And I've been in that position before where the post comes down quickly and we find brighter days ahead. So that's my take. But once again, you probably have lots of wisdom here in the room, Michelle.
Ray, I have a question. Sometimes these conversations can run amok, no matter how gently we step into them and try and make that person safe. What if that person gets physically agitated, upset, emotional, angry, throws a chair in the situation where you're having to have, you know, a somewhat professional conversation, but they're not receiving it well at all. So what do you do in those situations?
Really good question. Can I break it into two parts? What
Absolutely.
do you do so that that reaction happens less, less frequently? And then two, what do you do if it happens regardless? Because we know both are true. So first of all, to help that happen less frequently, We just watch our own emotions and we make sure that it's a safe place, and we don't match. If the emotions start to raise, we don't play the one-up game. But sometimes, regardless of what we do, it can happen. And I think that everyone deserves safety, including all of us, as we're going to have these conversations. And I think we just say, let's park this. And you can say, we're going to park this and delay this. And sometimes you do have to just say, I'm unable to continue the conversation and leave. And then you have to ask for help and support as well, because you don't deserve any form of abuse either. So those are my two things. And there are some times where you have to stop the conversation and figure it out later. The delay is a great move for that.
Fantastic. We did have some comments. I want to go back to some of the fears of having these types of conversation. And I noticed one comment that you're avoiding having the conversation because you're afraid it might go longer than the actual conversation. That situation, doesn't end at that conversation and things get better. It gets twisted or comment on and becomes fodder for the office gossip. So how do you deal with that?
What works for me is to come up with some ground rules and parameters. I think this is a 10-minute conversation, but if we need more time, I have more time. So some parameters around time. Second, I alluded earlier to just some agreements. Michelle, I didn't want to send out the email and I didn't want to have a big meeting and cause a bunch of drama. Can you and I figure this out, the two of us? Could we just agree on that? And any other agreements help that thing that you just brought up. Going too long, talking about with a bunch of other people, making disparaging remarks when we leave. So the thing I always say is, whatever we're worried about, we should say it out loud and be honest. Michelle, I'm worried you'll think I'm incompetent because I couldn't figure out the parking thing. That's my biggest fear. What people like Michelle will usually say back is, no, I think you're great. We'll figure this out. So if you're afraid of something, it going too long, not having rules, just say that thing that you're worried about. And people are usually pretty gracious.
Fantastic. We have one long question, so hang on to your hat for this one. It's fantastic.
Okay.
I own a retail sporting goods store and have many younger employees that work for us. Unfortunately, we have customers who get very upset and verbally abusive with our staff, especially when it comes to warranty issues. They always do their best to resolve it, but because I'm not always here, sometimes things need to be escalated to me and I deal with it. I always like to insert the, in quotes, how would you like it if another adult was swearing or treating your child that way? To put it into perspective, I'm assuming for the abusive customer.
Right.
But because I was not actually there, I struggle with the he said, she said. Because I find the customer will always try to downplay it after the fact. Do you have any suggestions for this?
So that's an excellent question. The one thing I'd say is that when I've had to describe how someone's feeling to another person, if I say I'm worried about them and they're losing sleep or they didn't feel safe, usually others will connect with that. So in this case, if I tell a customer, one of our team members actually lost a lot of sleep over that conversation, they didn't feel safe. I don't need to get into exactly what was said. All I need to share is that they're not feeling safe or that they're losing sleep, and we're going to fix it moving forward. When it comes to our own team members, if it's on the opposite side, the same works. Hey, we had someone leave here the other day. They were pretty upset. Let's unpack it. I want your perspectives on it and then move forward.
Fantastic. Okay, time is getting away from us, but if you do have one last question, so our questioner said perfect. Thank you. Good job, Ray. So we have time for one more question. If you're furiously typing, now is the time to talk to Ray. Otherwise, I would really encourage you. I know he does one-on-one coaching and consulting, to reach out to him directly through, and I will send out his information in the email that comes out with the recording of today's session. So make sure that if you're in a situation, that first of all, you don't do it alone. If you're in one of those tough conversation situations, like Ray did said, go to an advisor or a trusted friend or an HR expert like himself. Highly recommend. So I will wait just a few more minutes for someone to type in another question, but I want to remind you that the Regional Business Support Network offers free business support services like that. I say I'm the good four-letter F word. Free. and it is supported by Prairie's Economic Development Canada, by the Town of Olds, and by Community Futures Central Alberta. And whether you are thinking about starting a business and starting up, or whether you're shutting down a business and retiring and need a succession plan, or anything in between, our team and our network can help you at no cost. So if you just need to talk about your business and want a brainstorming buddy, we're here for that as well. So Annie says, thanks for sharing all that information. Tara says, thank you, Michelle /RBSN and Ray, and 2 hands up. So if there are no further questions, I'll just remind everybody that we do have a BizBite library available to you of all of these great subject matters: AI training, social media management, increasing your sales. It's all in the library. And there's another one next month that's coming about how to build your workforce of the future. So for those of you who are looking at younger staff members, our expert Justine Whitman from Next Generation Careers will be here in February. I believe it's around the 18th. I'll send you the link. So make sure you sign up for that as well, because not only that, if you can't make the live time, you get the recording. And did I say we were the good 4-letter F word? Free? Offering great information at no cost to you. So thank you everyone for joining us. I really appreciate your time. And like I said, Ray, exceptional presentation. And
thank you, Michelle.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
And thank you for all the kindness. I'm seeing so much kindness. Can I come back tomorrow? This doesn't normally happen to me. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye for now, everyone. I'll let you log off at your leisure.